Hi and welcome along to this week's episode of Cannachat, where we casually chat about all things cannabis related. We appreciate you tuning in.
All views expressed in this podcast are the opinions of the host and in no way medical advice. Hi guys and welcome to episode 2 of Cannachat. With me today I have Tim again.
Hey Lee.
Hi Tim.
Oh, mic not close enough. How are you today?
Not too bad, how are you? All good?
Very good.
Good.
Loving the sunshine.
It's nice to see a bit of pleasant weather over here, isn't it?
Absolutely. What are we going to be getting into today then, mate?
Probably the usual, just a bit of everything in cannabis. We'll just cover a bit of spectrum of everything on it. No real sort of subject matter today. We'll just, again, take it as we do and just take it in a casual chat. We've got a great response from the first episode. The response has been very good feedback from it. Everybody did enjoy it, but appreciate you like and subscribe on the YouTube. Thank you very much. Today we're basically going to cover a bit about the endocannabinoid system. Yeah, so a lot of people aren't aware of how many things the endocannabinoid system actually regulates, like your appetite, your blood pressure, your inflammation, memory, growth. So many things are actually related to the endocannabinoid system. A lot of people too only really realise the benefits of the cannabinoids like CBD, THC, CBG, CBC. People are only really recognising the benefits of them that don't know a lot about cannabis. Or a lot of people don't really know a lot about terpenes yet. Terpenes are very, very beneficial. I mean, we actually handle terpenes and deal with terpenes on a daily basis that a lot of people aren't aware of. There's terpenes in most of your fruit and veg that you would eat. Lemons, exactly what gives lemon its sour taste and smell would be terpenes. The same with an orange, same with lavender. Lavender's full of terpenes, full of a terpene called myrcene. It actually causes a relaxing feeling. Again, the myrcene's rife in a lot of cannabis strains, mainly indicas, because they would be the ones that would sort of help you relax and sort of wind down at the end of the night. The way I help a lot of people relate the indica plant is indica in the bed, and that's sort of just a way to remember that the indica is nighttime and the sativa is more daytime creative balance.
So, terpenes, mate.
Yes.
What? So you're saying to me that terpenes are what, for example, gives lemons their smell and taste?
Yep.
So how do they link into health and sort of properties that are beneficial for people?
Well, a lot of terpenes are anti-inflammatory, so you've got that as a main benefit straight away from terpenes. They can be analgesic, which is pain relief. They can help your sleep. They can wind you down again. So, say myrcene would be a very good one for helping people wind down, go to sleep. That's in lavender, and that's why people use lavender to wind down at night, and sort of similar to chamomile and things like that. Most of those sort of have high terpene content, and that's what's causing people to actually wind down and get the relaxing feeling. Again, it's in a lot of cannabis strains and just different terpenes and different strains.
See, I always thought like lavender and whatnot, it was just a bit like, you know, the way you can have different scents in, for example, aftershave and perfume.
Yep.
And some are kind of, you know, if that makes any sense, like a relaxing smell or a more energized smell or whatever. And I always just thought lavender happened to be on that bottom chilled out spectrum of smells, but I never considered that it actually had something physiological going on in the body.
Yeah. No, they do give great health benefits, especially for pain relief and relaxation and things like that. But again, like you say, there is different terpenes in different fruit and veg and different foods for different reasons. Like you say, the lavender, it does wind you down. The chamomile's the same. Where if you smell a lemon, it's quite refreshing. That would be more daytime terpene in that. I mean, that's like limonene in that. That would give you quite a sort of fresh feeling. That's I started working with terpenes and products back in 2019, and I created terpene blends for during the day and terpene blends for evening time. Terpene blends for during the day would have a lot of sort of like limonene and things like that to create the blend, which is the uplifting smells like lemons and oranges and things would sort of give you that sort of uplifting feeling. And the nighttime blend would definitely be more sort of related to terpenes that would be in lavender and chamomile, like some myrcene and things like that I would use to make the blend. And again, the feedback from them has been fantastic because the nighttime just does really help people wind down and help give real good analgesic pain relief. And the daytime sort of for balancing anxiety is fantastic. Thing a lot of people don't realise is that you can stop creating what's called anandamide in your body, which is a happy hormone, and CBD and terpenes can help you recreate the anandamide, which is basically helping people with depression and things like that. And that's why the daytime blend's working so well for people with depression and anxiety, because actually the terpenes helping people create their own anandamide in their body. Just basically it's helping create the homeostasis in your body again, the same way that most cannabinoids and terpenes do. And the more cannabinoids and terpenes that you bring into the mix, it creates what's called an entourage effect. The entourage effect is basically just giving you the maximum benefit you can get out of terpenes and cannabis. So it's basically like a team working together. If one person's trying to complete a task, it's quite difficult, but if you have a team on board, it becomes so much easier. It's exactly the same way with cannabinoids and terpenes. The more you're adding into the mix, the more benefit you get. And that's why people try and use as much full plant as they can when they're making medicines.
Very interesting. So in the industry, in the cannabis industry, what you're saying is there's products that are really beneficial for people that actually essentially contain, terpenes aren't a cannabinoid, right?
No, they're not. No.
So there's products that are beneficial that you create and they actually have zero sort of cannabinoids whatsoever.
Yes, well, where I've actually just developed a product there in the last month. It'll be due for release within a few weeks here, and it has no cannabinoids in it whatsoever. It's just down to terpenes, and we'll put it out for trials there over the last few weeks, and feedback has been mind-blowing. And people can't get over the fact that there is no CBD in it, but it's proven the misconception that CBD is just the miracle cure, because it's not. Certainly very beneficial, but I think it's overrated in the whole industry as regards other terpenes and cannabinoids can be just as beneficial, if not more beneficial.
I suppose it's a bit like diet or anything else. People sort of take protein, for example. People started going on about, eat protein bars, eat everything's protein. But of course, you need balance. You need some carbs, you need a wee bit of sugar, you need a bit of salt, you need everything. So it's all about balance.
That's exactly it. Everything's about balance, and it's just getting that balance right. As I said in the first episode, you can be using too much certain cannabinoids and too much terpenes and so on. Everything is just balance. But again, that's what it's all about. Yeah, it's just about balance, and say, cannabinoids will help you create your own balance through homeostasis in your body, and that's just basically everything leveling out as it should be in your body. I mean, as I said in episode 1, endocannabinoid system deficiency is a big thing in my mind, and it's why a lot of people have a lot of health issues these days, like Crohn's, fibromyalgia, MS, ME. So many autoimmune diseases just didn't exist when cannabis was legal. Since cannabis was made illegal, these conditions just became rife. And again, as I say, people are treating them with cannabinoids and terpenes daily and getting good relief. It speaks volumes.
Absolutely. You slightly teased us there with this new product that only contains terpenes. Can you tell us anything else about it, like at all, or are we able to wait and see with bated breath? I'm
going to keep you waiting with bated breath on that one. I reckon by episode 4 I'll be able to certainly let you all know about it, because it is something I'm very excited about, because to me it is something that hasn't been done before, and the feedback has been fantastic, so I'm very, very impressed with it. I'm looking forward to the release of it. So it certainly will be touching base on it and discussing it when it's up for release. We'll certainly have a chat about it through the podcast, there's no doubt about that, because it's something I'm certainly very excited about.
Well, I suppose it'd be no harm telling anyone that I happen to be a test subject of said product. So yeah, I'm a huge fan myself.
Yep,
very much so.
I say feedback has been very, very good on it. I say we will have a daytime and a nighttime in this range, and feedback's been very good in both. So I'm very excited about getting this out for release. But I say we'll talk about more closer to the time. There's no doubt. But again, on the legalization of cannabis, again, we'll just touch briefly on that. And one of the main reasons that I think regulation needs to be sorted is because of the amount of contaminated cannabis out there. I don't think people realise the extent of contaminated cannabis out there. Probably between 60 to 80% of the market is contaminated. And I don't mean briefly what I touched on before with PGRs and things like that in the plant. I mean properly contaminated with dangerous substances like years ago, initially they started spraying fiberglass on the plants just to increase the weight and to make it look shinier, because it makes it look like trichomes on the plant, which makes it look more potent. But the main reason was to increase the weight. They used sand years ago. They've used all sorts to increase the weight in plants just to get people to buy and make more money. It's a sad part of the industry, and it's what happens through prohibition, sadly. Another reason, again, we need regulation. But the thing about it is now it's became more dangerous. Years ago, yes, they were spraying fiberglass and such like on the plant, but nowadays they're spraying what's known as spice on the plants. Spice is often mistaken for cannabis because it's a synthetic cannabinoid. So basically it's a cannabinoid that's been recreated in a lab from scratch. Synthetic cannabinoids should never be mistaken for real cannabinoids because they're totally different. There's a lot of side effects come from spice. There's a lot of children, teenagers and so on have basically ruined their lives through taking spice. I've seen it myself throughout Belfast city centre many a time. Children standing outside the back of Castle Court staring into the sky, lost. It's a sad state of affairs to see, but again, it's through prohibition. It's one of the sad side effects of prohibition. Again, it's just something I wanted to briefly touch base on of why I firmly believe that this should be addressed, because there's so many children just being forgot about out there. I mean, cannabis has so many benefits, like I said, when it's used correctly. We can use everything and abuse everything that has benefits, certainly. It's just using it correctly, and sadly, that's one of the things off the back of prohibition is the contaminated cannabis out there. And I would seriously imagine it would be between 60 to 80% of the industry.
Ooh. That's a huge amount. So what would the case be if you were smoking cannabis that had fiberglass on it?
Well,
Cancer,
certainly,
I suppose.
I would imagine so long term, and it's certainly going to be very bad for your lungs. Yeah, I mean, look at asbestos, doesn't it? Breathing it in years ago, working with it was dangerous for people. So I would imagine fiberglass wouldn't be that much different. And I mean, if you're smoking it, it's going to be a bit more dangerous than breathing it in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's one of the few things they used years ago. I say the spice is a big concern now because mental health wise, I mean, we've got enough mental health issues as it is with the younger generation without them smoking this spice.
Absolutely.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not just the younger ones that are getting tainted with this spice in their cannabis. It's older people too that are maybe trying to get cannabis for health reasons, but they have to go through the black market because of the way the industry is, sadly. And these people are sadly smoking this stuff too. And the thing about spice is a lot of I've watched documentaries and stuff on Vice and different places about the spice, and they're contaminating a lot of the cannabis, not heavy enough to give the kids the messed up, lost feeling they get from the spice, where they're staring at the ceiling in a world of their own. But it's giving them enough to get that addiction, that crave for more. I mean, one of the dealers on a Vice documentary had actually explained that people were coming back to him a week later when he had really, really high quality cannabis, and they didn't want the high quality cannabis. They wanted the stuff he had before, the stuff he had a week ago, which he knew was contaminated and laced with spice. I say it's not giving them enough to get them off their nut, but it's giving them enough of a buzz to give them that addictive feeling to where they want that the next week. They're not getting it from good quality cannabis, that feeling of addiction, craving, settling, but they're getting it when they smoke that spice again. And that's the sad reality of it, because cannabis itself is not addictive. You can certainly become addicted to the escape of life that you can get from cannabis, like anything you can. Any enjoyment, I mean, you can get that from anything that's enjoyable, that escape from life, but cannabis itself isn't addictive.
Yeah, I've came across a few people on that spice is the one they talk about. It zombifies people.
That's exactly the one. I mean, like I say, you would see children just teenagers at the back of Castle Court just standing and staring into the sky, wouldn't even know you're standing beside them. I mean, it's very heartbreaking, to be honest, when you do walk about and see that.
Would you have any practical tips for people to be able to differentiate between it and?
That's the problem. Cannabis? It's so hard to define now, and it's so hard to see it. You can't really feel it in the plant because it's that in the plant that day, but sprayed in the plant when the plant's drying, so it gets sort of soaked into the plant to a degree, to where you can't physically tell it's on the plant. It's so hard to just find good clean cannabis in a black market. Sadly, I say there's so many people out there to make money, and not everybody in the black market is out to help people's health. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there are out to help people's health, because there has to be, because of regulation, because of prohibition. People need the help health wise. But obviously there's a lot of recreational use out there too, but both people are taking this hit of contaminated cannabis, and again, it's just down to prohibition. Yeah.
As your little clip that I loved on TikTok said, like Warren G says, you got to regulate.
You do, indeed, exactly. I say, I'm a great believer that that's one of the problems with the whole industry. Regulation has to happen. And that's one of the main reasons. Another main reason is because cannabis shouldn't be people's last choice. It always seems to be people's last choice. I mean, and that's through the stigma that's created through the reefer madness years ago that we're all had drummed into us. I mean, that stigma's real hard to shake when it's been drummed into for so long. But I mean, years ago, the media accused cannabis of making people rape women and all sorts of crazy stuff if they smoke cannabis. I mean, that was this crazy stigma that was pushed on cannabis at the start. It's unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm no fan of alcohol.
Pure propaganda, basically.
Yeah, but it really is pure propaganda. I mean, everybody can see through that now. Everybody, I would imagine, knows someone that uses cannabis, either medicinally or recreationally now, because it just is so popular now, and rightly so. Like I said, it should be used medicinally and recreationally. There's no reason it shouldn't be. What I'll briefly touch on again too is I mentioned cannabinoids last week, and I should have really mentioned how cannabinoids can change. Inside the plant, when a plant's growing, all your cannabinoids are acid form. So your cannabinoids will actually be, instead of being CBD in a plant, it'll be CBDA. Instead of being CBG, it'll be CBGA, and so on. They'll all have an acid precursor to them. Okay, so once the way to change that and to process cannabis to get different medical benefits, sometimes more so, It was always believed more so, but now a lot of research is pointing into the acidic forms have actually got a lot of health benefits too. But before, everybody was doing what they call decarboxylating cannabis. It's a process that when you heat cannabis, the acid form changes to unacid. So it's basically CBDA will change to CBD, CBGA will change to CBG, THCA will change to THC. Okay. Now when these molecules change, they become different. They have different properties. So THC, when it's raw in a plant form, so when it's THCA, it's actually not psychoactive to the same degree. It's very, very, very minimal. But when you heat cannabis and change it from THCA to THC, that's when it becomes potent and becomes psychoactive. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So when people someone actually uses a plant and juices a plant and stuff, they're getting the full benefit of all the cannabinoids, the terpenes, the flavonoids, everything in that plant. But it won't be psychoactive because nothing's been heated to give the psychoactive properties. Okay, that's just one of the brief things I wanted to touch on, and a lot of people don't understand about cannabis.
So you can consume THC in its acidic
raw
form, and it wouldn't be psychoactive at all?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, where when it's heated, it becomes psychoactive. So it's just wee things that I want to touch on throughout the podcast to say we're starting at scratch here. We're doing things from a different perspective. We just wanted to go a different perspective in this and start at scratch because so many people know nothing about cannabis. Understand so many people watching the podcast in the industry know that all this is basics. I totally understand that, but there's so many people watching the podcast from a fresh set of eyes, and that's why I want to cover all angles and try and get as much information out there about cannabinoids, terpenes, and so on as I can, because I just feel that education needs to be pushed out there.
Absolutely, especially when you hark back to things you're talking about earlier, like when there's contaminants out there and spice, and plus it's, as you say, everyone knows someone, so it's rife in its use.
Yep.
So you know what I mean? It's like the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. It's being used, so you may as well be educated.
Exactly.
The common.
There's no denying that people use cannabis. I mean, it's one of the most common used drugs in the world, if you want to call it a drug. Personally, I don't like call it a herb, but at least some people call it a drug. Those that do it would be one of the most commonly used drugs in the world. And the reason being is it's one of the least dangerous drugs in the world. If you look at the list of drugs, alcohol is actually the most dangerous out of them all. So, and cannabis would be way down below everything else. Not to mention again the benefits that come from it. So there's very few benefits come from a lot of other drugs, but cannabis certainly has unlimited amount of benefits that I know of anyway.
I just had an interesting thought. Well, at least I thought it was interesting. You know, sometimes when you're in school, they'd give you a sort of pamphlet, and it would tell you about alcohol.
Yep.
And it would sort of say, a beer is 2 units, wine is 1.5, and spirits is more, or whatever. Could you see a day when kids will be getting handed that pamphlet, but it'll talk about what you're talking about? This is what THC is. This type of strain, indica into bed, will make you feel this way. Sativa will make you feel that way. Do you think that'll happen?
I highly hope so, and I really anticipate it and look forward to it. I really do, and to be honest, I firmly believe there will be, because there's regulation happening throughout the world. I mean, cannabis being legalized in so many countries now for medicinal reasons and recreationally too. And I think the education is starting to push out there slowly with it. And I think if the UK legalises it, they should certainly make sure education goes alongside it. There's no doubt in my mind. I would certainly be one of the ones helping to push that forward. Because education is key. To understand how and why the plant works, and again, how not to get carried away with it and keep your balance with THC and so on. So like I said, you can get carried away. It's like anything, you get carried away with anything. So you need to know how to educate yourself to the balance. You need to know if you've got a certain condition, what the best cannabinoids and best terpenes are for you to be taken for that condition. So if you are using raw cannabis and you're just smoking the plant, you're smoking the right strain for you and so on, because the right certain strains obviously have different levels of THC, CBD, CBG, as we explained before. So you just want to make sure you're using the right one. And again, that's all down to education too, because like I say, there's hundreds of thousands of strains out there. It's shocking how many strains there is out there.
Yeah. And again, just thinking back to I can't help but compare it to alcohol all the time, because it's the obvious
it's the obvious one when it's legal
drug. But even the idea that kids grow up, right, and the average family will probably, the parents will drink something. So even that idea that it's normalized in the house,
it's normalized.
And maybe the kid gets 15, 16, 17, and the parent starts going,
how we drink in the house?
See what you think, and straight away it's like, well, then there's no naughtiness to that. There's no badness to it. It's just, drink does this to me, and I know it. And my mum or dad was there the first time it happened, so if anything went wrong, and just I think that's so, not to say I'm a huge supporter of drinking loads, because I'm really not, but do you know what I mean? Just if that could be the same for, frankly, any kind of half
that's
sensible
very poignant
thing.
what you're saying. Education should go alongside every substance, especially drugs. Do you know what I mean? You should have education along with that. Again, I've children, my own teenage children. I teach them the dangers of everything. I teach them the dangers of alcohol, cannabis, everything else. I also teach them that the benefits of everything too. So again, it shouldn't be something to be shied away from. Cannabis, do you know what I mean? Like I said, it needs to be something that's just put on the table and talked about. It's not going to go away. Certainly not anytime soon. There's too many people need this for a high quality of life.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not going away anytime soon. So we should really just talk about and address it.
Yeah.
While we do that, we should raise education, make sure everyone has a good knowledge on it that we can.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just when you're talking about it, it'll never go away. I think I caught an episode of Top Gear from ages ago the other day, and Clarkson had pulled up at the back of some petrol station in somewhere, I'm trying to remember, I think it was somewhere in South America, and there was just a massive weed plant just there. Just as far as it's not going away,
just
it's like
looking
it
all
literally
natural and
sprouts
stuff
out of the earth, right?
That's
Crazy.
it. I mean, it can't be destroyed. I mean, it grows from the ground. That's the reason why I don't class it as drugs. I class it as a plant and a herb, because it is what it is. It doesn't need to be changed or altered to be used for medicine. Do you mean you can grow it and you can use it straight from the plant? You don't need to process it now. It can be processed so many different ways now. I mean, there's so many different types of concentrates out there now. As I explained before, you've got different types of concentrates. You've rosin, you've batter, you've wax, you've sauces, you've all these different concentrates that the plant's actually used from now. You get the plant, the process, the cannabis plant, and the process it in these concentrates that are high concentrates, coming in anywhere between 60 to 95% concentrate. All used different ways. Now, some of the concentrates are high CBD, some of them are high THC. They're all different for different reasons, obviously. You've CBG 3-to-1 distillates and stuff available now. There's so many different products available from cannabis that can be used so many different ways. Again, these would be the ones that would be used for oils. Cannabis can be stripped down. You can make what's called an isolate. An isolate would be a powder form. It looks like this. Then you've got a distillate, which is a better quality product. A distillate has a broader spectrum of cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids inside it. It's not as processed as the isolate, and it's not stripped back. So distillate would always be a higher quality product to use for creating products. Distillate looks a bit like this. So distillate is what I would use in all my products, simply because the quality is so much better. Now I'm trying to create what's known as the entourage effect. As I explained before, the entourage effect is just all the cannabinoids, terpenes and flavonoids all working together. And that's really the goal for everybody that should medicating, is to create that entourage effect to get maximum benefit, but obviously create the entourage effect with a higher concentration of the cannabinoids and terpenes that work for them, for their condition.
Can I just ask you one more question maybe about just harking back to parents and kids, and you're saying you're a parent with teenage kids and stuff. What advice would you have to parents of, in particular, teenage kids, just in relation to cannabis in general? Any sort of just basic advice on how to talk to them about it or deal with it at all?
Yeah, it's like everything. I can't condone it, but I would certainly advise education with children. I mean, if you're a parent, educate yourself on cannabis, educate yourself on the dangers of it, educate yourself on the benefits of it, educate yourself on the dangers and benefits of alcohol. Weigh them up together, and don't deny your children any facts. Just tell them the truth. It is what it is. Also, if you are not glorifying cannabis, but telling the children the benefits of cannabis, teenagers and stuff, the benefits of cannabis, then certainly explain them the dangers alongside it, like the contaminated cannabis that is on the streets, the dangers that can come along using that and being hooked on spice and so on, because I say it has ruined so many teenagers' lives, that spice, and it has put so many teenagers into hospital and into homes, and they've done all sorts of ended up in jail through the spice. Do you know what I mean? Next minute they're stealing out of house because they need to get more money for more spice because they're hooked. I've never seen that happen with cannabis.
Yeah, it's kind of like the word balance jumps into my head again. You know, and I totally agree. Tell your kids. I don't have kids, but tell young people, you know, the features and benefits, essentially the good and the bad, and then they get to make an informed decision, right?
Yeah, but then they need to know there's a time and place for this too. It's like everything. Do you mean alcohol is a time and place? You want to have it, drop your shoulders, have a wee drink on a Friday night, so be it. You're not going to get up on a Monday morning, have a drink and go to work. It's the same with cannabis. Pardon me. It's all about balance, and that's the key to everything, I think. It's the same with So your mental health, you need balance too. Do you know what I mean? Everything is the same. You need a certain balance of everything. You need a wee balance of the gym, wee balance of what's good for you. It's just, that's life. And I think that's the goal to having a happy life, is balance.
Yeah.
And cannabis is no different. It's you can set that balance off so easily by just overusing, and that's so easy done. Like I say, but you're not addicted to the cannabis, you're addicted to that escape from reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you say, that can happen with anything, but especially something that can be psychoactive when it's smoked.
Yeah.
Right? When it's so smoked, it's psychoactive.
Yeah, because everybody does like a bit of that escape. And when you say smoked it, most of the time cannabis is still smoked. But there's so many different ways to consume it now with vaping, and now a lot of boys are doing what's called dabbing, is smoking high concentrated oils, which is the stuff that distillates in the oils and the waxes and batters, explained briefly. Again, we'll go into stuff like that in future podcasts too. Sure. We're going to go into everything. We're going to go into basics about joints, vaping, dabbing. Everything will be covered down the line. There's no doubt. There's nothing I want to sort of miss by the end of the series.
Looking forward to it, because I'd love to ask you right now, what's your opinion on the difference between vaping and all that stuff? But yeah, let's keep that. Yeah,
we'll get to that. I say we'll wrap this one up for now. That's it's been fantastic chatting with you again, Tim, as always. And if I say anybody that has enjoyed this, if you just want to like and subscribe, and that's on the YouTube here, and if you want to follow us on Spotify, we're on Spotify and Instagram as well. There, just under cannachat.
Cannachat. Mm-hmm. What was that again? Spotify and Instagram.
Spotify and Instagram.
You're also on all the other sort of
under
platforms?
Cannachat and on all the other platforms like Amazon Music as well. If you want to type in Cannachat, or if you want to certainly shout out, ask your Alexa to play Cannachat there. She'd assist well enough.
What a world we live in.
I know.
In other words, wherever you get your platforms, I was about to say, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hopefully wherever you look, you'll find us.
That's where it'll be.
That's the plan.
Hey Alexa, play a Cannachat. I like that.
I like that myself.
Yeah, well, it was great speaking with you, Lee, as always.
Thank you for your time, Tim.
I always learn a lot from you. Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Catch you again.
Watch the full video podcast on YouTube at Kaput Network.
We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's episode. We'll catch you again soon for some more cannachat. And remember, the real crime is knowing cannabis can help others, but doing nothing about it.